Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from the Frontier. Thanks as always for stopping by. I'm always grateful. We've uploaded Bob Collingmore's Tour de Force from Saturday's Mindspeak, The Evolution of Hope. We've uploaded it onto YouTube. Do take a look. Go to Rich Wrap-Ups or the front page of rich.co.ke and the link will be there. Below that link on Rich Wrap-Ups is a link for the entire presentation, which is extremely interesting and really timely in the context of the world we're in now. So do take a look, and any feedback, I'd love to hear it. Put up a photograph of Bob at Mindspeak this Saturday, and I'm grateful to him for coming. It was very interesting. I actually had a preview of it when we were in London at the FT Africa conference. And I said to Bob then, I thought it was very powerful. We were all having dinner, so some of it was missed because people were talking. But at least at Mindspeak we had the chance to listen to it in full. Macro thoughts. Oil tumbled yesterday about 4% as doubts over OPEC production, over the OPEC production cut, but we're up about 1% on a rebound this morning. I asked over the weekend, will OPEC bring oil markets back to balance? And I'm not confident about that at all. But I was also asking, who can forget the glory days of OPEC, when the gnome-like Sheikh Yamani, prayer beads in hand, would hold the global economy in his thrall, with every and often very cryptic pronouncements. Those were the glory go-go days, which were in fact repeated 2010 to 2014, before the big crash, which has seen Riyadh, Caracas, Luanda, Abuja all enter a tailspin. Let me put up a photograph of Sheikh Ahmed Zaki Yamani at a press conference in Geneva many years ago. And then I was quoting Kapuscinski. It is a filthy, foul-smelling liquid that squirts up obligingly up into the air and falls back to earth as a rustling shower of money. Over the weekend I said I do not see WTI trading above $60 under any circumstance through 2017, and therefore traders can sell $60 strike call options with a 1-year maturity into a price rally. It's a bit higher than here, I would assume. Ideally sort of $3 higher, to be honest. But we'll have to keep an eye on it and pocket the premium. And then yesterday morning, Eric Scott Huntsader tweeted, a great disturbance in crude purple line stands out, and that was yesterday. Today is the big meeting. Went back to Salman Rushdie. Ours is the most cryptic of centuries, its true nature, a dark secret. And I think that's pretty powerful, don't you? Banksy tweeted, get out there. And I like the photograph, I must admit. I like this tweet from Calestus quoting Mark Twain. I wonder whether the world is being run by smart people who are putting us on, or by imbeciles who really mean it. Powerful. Ahmed Salim tweeted this photograph of Mombasa, but behind the photograph is a much more powerful story about the failure of rubbish collection. Now it's become a rubbish tip. A great shame. Political reflection. South Korean president offers to quit amid outrage over corruption. And I think that boils down to the fact that the crowd did not disperse and go home. Assad closes in on a huge victory in Aleppo. Jerusalem post-Syrian regime forces and their allies are advancing towards a decisive victory over rebels in Aleppo, country's largest city, in what promises to be a major turning point in the civil war. Stunning gains on the ground, combined with the electoral victory of Donald Trump, who has signaled he may cut US support for rebel groups, put Syrian President Assad in his strongest position yet since the fighting started almost 6 years ago. It's very, very sticky, hasn't he? In recent days, the Syrian army and its allies, backed by Russian aerial bombardments, have taken back more than 1/3 of eastern Aleppo from the rebels in an assault that has killed hundreds and displaced thousands more. The regime believes it is on track to reclaim remaining rebel-held areas before Trump takes office in January, a victory that would resonate throughout Syria and have regional and international implications. talking about Hezbollah support, Kurdish support, Shiite militia support, and how the fall of Aleppo will be a huge blow to the rebels in a war that has taken the lives of many. Assad's regime recapture of all of Aleppo may push Trump even further in the direction of ditching the rebels and increasingly appear to be a lost cause. You will recall he said, "We have no idea who the rebels are," he said. Conclusions are, it's over. A couple of days ago I tweeted, it's headed towards an abject surrender, and I bet you there was not one Syrian prepared to live under the rebel regime of their free will. New York Times World, I'm ready to agree to the regime's terms, whatever they are, for the sake of stopping the killing. So we're at that surrender moment. And then this morning, it took me back to Putin, who intervened 13 months ago. Since then, he has rolled back the rebel advance, reshaped the US election via some very sophisticated interference, pocketed OPEC, and seemingly triangulated Merkel with this sort of far-right nationalist zeitgeist. It's pretty extraordinary. 5th of October 2015, you will recall, he was at UNGA, and he said, "I cannot help asking those who have caused the situation, do you realize now what you've done?" Then he put up a photograph of him and Assad, which is from the 7th of November last year. Within 24 hours of delivering that speech at the United Nations General Assembly, Russia instructed that the US should vacate Syrian airspace. The message, interestingly, then was not delivered to Ashton Carter by his Russian counterpart Shoigu. It was delivered to the US Embassy in Baghdad. And pretty soon after that message was delivered, Russia began its intervention on the side of President Assad of Syria. The point I'm making is 13 months ago. Then you could hear the squealing start immediately from Ankara to Riyadh, from the GCC to Washington. All these capitals have assets on the ground in Syria, and what is clear is that Russia is not making a distinction between IS or the moderate opposition fighting Assad, which really means our terrorists. Lavrov said then, if it looks like a terrorist, if it acts like a terrorist, if it walks like a terrorist, if it fights like a terrorist, it's a terrorist, right? Put up a photograph of him in Lausanne. And I concluded on the 5th of October last year saying Putin fancies himself the fly catcher in Syria, the fly trap. Now saying then the speed of execution confirms that Russia is once again a geopolitical actor that will have to be considered, and I call it a breathtaking rebound. And the title of the article is Putin is a geopolitical grandmaster. And I think, what we've seen over the last 13 months since that UNGA speech is quite remarkable. I'll put up a photograph of him meeting with President Xi Jinping on the sidelines of the APEC leaders meeting. And this was another failure, I think, of US foreign policy. When your main adversary is China, why put Putin into their clutches? The Warren Commission is to investigate JFK's assassination. That commission was established in 1963 on this day. Misinformation on social media. Can technology save us? Algorithms, social media, misinformation. And actually, I don't think they interfered with the machines that counted the votes, but I think what Russia did in a very sophisticated manner, and WikiLeaks was an asset, I'm sure, amongst others, was a drip, drip, drip feed which drained the energy of the Hillary Clinton camp and played into the conspiracy theory and the conspiracies that were whirling in Donald Trump's world. So it firmed up the vote there. US third quarter growth is revised to up 3.2%. Hervé asks me, what is the electorate complaining about? And I said, you cannot eat GDP is a refrain being shouted from the Rust Belt of the US all the way to Africa. And I think the correlation coefficient between GDP and voter satisfaction levels is broken down. Very interesting piece in the New Yorker about Ivanka Trump. and going for gold. Listen to this. That electric night, this is a boxing fight, one boxer lost within 90 seconds and the crowd were in uproar and very upset. The electric night in Atlantic City made me realize that it isn't enough to win a transaction, she writes. All these years later, you have to be able to look the other guy in the eye and know that there is value in the deal on the other end. Unless, of course, you're a one-time seller and just going for the gold. The important part of that last bit. This is Atom Murray, I made the Trump-Romney photo black and white, and it looks like a Twilight Zone episode where a guy just made a foolish deal with the devil. The lack of empathy, perhaps because they lack the texture of reality outside the technology bubble. That's speaking about Silicon Valley. Luxembourg Prime Minister Xavier Bettel says Britain can't have its cake and eat it on Brexit. I just like the photographs, the art behind it in this photograph. US consumer confidence hit its highest point since July 2007, surging to 107.1 in November from 100.8 in October. And that goes back to the 21st of November when I was saying Trump is accelerating a stampede back into US assets. Trumponomics is going to accelerate this trend. He's proposing to cut taxes, increase spending, the dollar's at a 13-year high, Asian currencies are at multi-year lows, bond yields have soared. For those who have watched the flight to quality unfold here at home, this is no different. Trump is accelerating a global flight to quality and a stampede back into US assets. Mnuchin said it to be Trump's Treasury pick as economic team forms. He's a Goldman Sachs employee, which really sort of negates some of the linguistic warfare that Trump had launched against Hillary Clinton. Italy risk spread over Germany plunges as the ECB indicates it will be a buyer in case of post-vote turmoil. Let's move on to the currency markets. Euro dollar 106.23, dollar index around 101.12, the Japanese yen 112.72, Swiss franc 101.33, the pound 124.73. And very interesting, I was listening to Carney before I started this podcast. It's worth going and having a listen to what he's saying, particularly bearish about China, debt ratios. India rupee 68.595, South Korean won 1168.30, Rial 345.13, Egyptian pound is softened and is at 18, South African rand 13.9186, but that's all betting on whether Zuma's going or whether there's going to be a last hurrah. Make up your mind and take a position. Dollar index, I'll put up a 1-year chart. My target is now 110. Commodity markets, gold 1188.47. It's not going up anywhere and it's going to break down again in my view. Emerging markets, best emerging market bonds jolted as India's RBI drains cash. And these are these Indian bonds which have rallied sharply as all that liquidity came into the banking system and then bought up the bonds. But it's now selling off as the central bank tries to drain the liquidity out of the banks. Very interesting essay by Pankaj Mishra, Modi's Revolutionary Dreams. Back in 2014, Narendra Modi's landslide victory was hailed by columnists in the Wall Street Journal and the Financial Times who predicted that he would prove to be India's Ronald Reagan, Margaret Thatcher, modernizing India's economy with a revolutionary program of deregulation and privatization. Abruptly withdrawing more than 80% of the cash in circulation in India, Modi appears today a very different kind of revolutionary, the type that emerged in many non-Western countries in the previous century. This figure variously incarnated as Ataturk, Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini, Mao Zedong and Chiang Kai-shek, pitilessly uses the power of the state to impose sacrifice and pain upon his compatriots, conscripting their bodies and souls in the all-important task of forging a virtuous new people and nation. To many eyes, the initial verdict on Modi's radical demonetization policy has been crushingly negative. Both Larry Summers and Kaushik Basu have described it as a blunder amid reports of financial sclerosis and extensive suffering, including dozens of deaths. According to Amartya Sen, only an authoritarian government can calmly cause such misery to the people. Even some of those who welcome Modi as an economic modernizer now attack him for callously exposing Indians in unnecessary distress. Projecting their own fantasies and disappointments on Modi, they disregard a cardinal rule. Believe the autocrat. He means what he says. Autocracy rules for survival. Soon after plunging India into chaos, he left for Japan, where he exhorted his countrymen to learn from the Japanese. Indians, he urged, should come together and make national interest paramount, just as the Japanese had in the aftermath of the devastating 2011 earthquake and tsunami. Obsession with the Japanese spirit of self-abnegation is no passing fad. Modi's ideological movement of Hindu nationalism was inspired by ultra-nationalists of the early 20th century, who saw widespread suffering as necessary and not just inevitable, in the urgent endeavor of creating a new ethical and spiritual community and a sense of cohesion. Looking for likely models, V.D. Savarkar, Modi's greatest hero, came to admire Turkish nationalists as well as the Nazis. These nation builders believed, along with Nietzsche, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. I pointed out in an earlier column on Modi's fascination with Japan that Hindu nationalists were especially admiring of the first Asian nation to become economically and militarily powerful through harsh self-sacrifice. Khomeini may have seemed daft to many economists when in 1979, as Iran faced a severe economic crisis, he declared that donkeys concern themselves with economics and his Islamic revolution was not about the price of melons. Khomeini knew that it is individual and collective sacrifice and suffering that binds people and forges a collective ethos. The extraordinarily bloody and prolonged Iran-Iraq war, which ideologically strengthened Khomeini's struggling regime, proved it right. There should be no doubt Modi is advancing a similarly ambitious and long-term experiment in India that aims to re-engineer human souls and minds as much as socio-economic realities. Success and failure in this grand endeavor cannot be measured through the conventional terms of technocrats. Demonetization seems right now like a kamikaze mission for the Indian economy, political harikiri for Modi. But India's ideologically driven Prime Minister is likely to undertake even riskier gambles with an eye on posterity, and to adopt the words of a recently departed revolutionary. History, as unreliable as ever, may even absolve him. He's got a point there, big time. Pro-syndicate columns of impact like holding Maduro government accountable. Okay, let's go to Africa. President Nkurunziza's top advisor, Willie Nyamitwe, who tweets a lot, escaped apparently a third assassination attempt. I've spoken about the spillover effects, and there continues to be a very suboptimal situation. After 22 years, will a united opposition finally defeat Gambia's strongman, Jammeh? This is the first time that the opposition is united. Eritrea President Isaiah Afwerki arrived in Egypt yesterday to meet with President Sisi. This is quite a big signal going on here in the Horn of Africa. Egypt is aligning itself not with the GCC and Saudi Arabia, but quite clearly with a different axis. And it's worth keeping an eye on that. Afro data charts in Nigeria and South Africa, sharp increase in negative views of the economy. Jacob Zuma, well, what can we say? He's escaped it again. This time, it must have been a close run thing. The question is he going to go nuclear now that he knows it's going, or is he going to be more under control? We'll have to see. Can't imagine anybody being Zuma's jockey, can you? Surprising how hard authorities try to undermine South African tourist industry. 90-minute queue at Johannesburg airport. Nothing more infuriating when you land in another country. You see that. South African oil share down 1.06% this year. Dollar versus Rand 13.9186. Firmed up on the back of perception that Zuma was mortally wounded. Egyptian pound, now that's softened up at 18 now. Let's see what happens from here. Oil, meanwhile, has gone up another 0.5%. Nigeria all share minus 11.9% year to date. Ghana Stock Exchange Composite Index minus 20 1.46% this year. Foreign firms have been hit by tax demands, are rethinking Tanzanian expansion. This is the downside to Magufuli, because I think at times the signal is not being read or is getting muddled and interfered with when it gets down to ground level. Tanzania is more reliant on foreign direct investment than many other regional countries. Given the size of its economy, it received just over $1.5 billion last year into an economy valued at $45 billion. Kenya got a $61 billion economy, received slightly less. But they're trying to increase tax revenues by 50%. A local franchisee for a global brand said it was in the process of leaving the country after a tax bill this year that topped its combined sales for the past 5 years. It said it had already sold one outlet and closed another. Kenya, Patrick Njoroge, the governor of the Central Bank of Kenya, said that the financial sector regulator has no approval or oversight authority over government payments to contractors through IFMIS. They've come under tremendous attack. I called it linguistic warfare. And, if you go and look at it, and this is the thing, when you embark on these programs, as a number of people, and we connect dots, we do a lot of that here, social media analysis and that kind of thing. It's very interesting to give away who's the Zubin Meta in the background, who's repeating it, etc. But it's definitely linguistic warfare, and it's completely unfair. And what it's really, the intention is to wound the central bank governor, who is a lodestar in the public sector. They can see that if they can remove him, there's more opportunity to navigate this murky world that he inherited. So that's the first point. Then finally, and this is another point that has been attacked on at the central bank, is that it did not have a board of directors, but finally we got some directors appointed by the president. Long overdue. Uhuru Kenyatta announced a shilling 2 billion coffee debt write-off. This is as he was traversing the central district looking for votes. That piece, if you had a chance to read it, the share price signal, growth crossings about Standard Chartered. Kenya shilling at 101.838. Nairobi All Share down 6.28% this year, closed at a 5-week closing low. NSE 20 down 19.41% this year. Interesting internet data, 6.1 million Kenyans on Facebook, 2.2 million on Twitter, that's where I tend to spend more of my time, 10 million on WhatsApp, I'm on there as well, 3 million Instagram, and 5.1 on LinkedIn. Look at this, REGJU, which is in Borana, took 10 years to build this dream estate atop Kenya's Laikipia Plateau. $7,500 per night to rent out the estate. How many people can fit in there on numbers? Kenol Kobil is up 59.89% on a total return basis this year and has been a standout performer at the NSE. Yesterday we saw pockets of strength in the agri sector. Kakuzi up 3.9%, up 21.67% in November. Sasini Tea upticked 8.56%. Safaricom, which is up 30.61% year to date on a total return basis, it remains a bull outlier. Kenya Airways ticked 0.75% lower, closed at 655. But Chairman Michael Joseph has moved with speed, precision and purpose, and there is surely more to go in the price as we go into year end. Standard Chartered reported Q3 earnings yesterday, pre-market opening. Q3 EPS accelerated 24.5%. Cost-income ratio improved an eye-popping 330 basis points to 40.1%. Stanchard's holdings of government securities surged 55.1% versus a year ago. Foreign exchange income clocked 2.2 billion, up 29.9%. And there was a 77.7% increase in other income. Being a big beneficiary of flight to quality, customer deposits were just shy of 200 billion shillings, $2 billion. Stanchart rallied 1.604% to close at 190 on light trading. Buyers outpaced sellers by more than 1,000%. It is in fact the only banking counter at the Securities Exchange which has delivered a positive return and is up 18.97% this year. I think there's plenty of scope for the upside. And given that it's tightly held, 73.89% held by the PLC. You've got to be patient to pick it up on any reverses. Barclays was up 1.12% yesterday. It's corrected quite a good deal, but I got a chance to listen to Peter Matlara, the Deputy CEO, Jeremy, up close and personal at the Barclays Africa Forum. And I think, everything is baked into the price at this level now. And they spoke of connectivity across the continent, which they've got. They've got plenty going for them. Kenol Cobil rebounded 1.569%, having corrected 6.69% the previous session. It's up 59.89% year to date. And I think the price action is signaling further gains. Once again, thank you for stopping by.